The Premier League is back, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, so is my Premier League predictions, where today we're going to be talking about Premier League Match Week 17. Now, of course, as I've really missed the Premier League, I'm so excited, I feel like a little kid on Christmas. Well, I guess it is the right time of year for that, so we will be jumping straight into things. Now, looking at our first game in the return of the Premier League, we have a London derby, Brentford versus Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, they've played some real fine football so far this season, as opposed to Ivan Toney getting a fine at Brentford. I bet none of you saw that one coming.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
But obviously, jokes aside, looking at Brentford, I do feel like they've had some spectacular moments so far this season. But looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, I still do view them as the better team. I feel like a lot of their top quality players got some really good minutes at the World Cup, a bit more match sharpness. And because of that, I do think Tottenham Hotspurs will take this one. I feel like it will be a 2-1 result. I could see a penalty or two happening in a game like this. But at the end of the day, I do think the 3 points will go in the Lily Whites' favour. Are Tottenham Hotspurs the Lily Whites? I think so. Game number 2 will be Crystal Palace versus Fulham. Now, yes, I know this will be controversial. Perhaps I am going to go for a draw here. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I mean, when doing prediction videos, it's always a bit of a gamble to put a draw. But don't tell Ivan Toney, he might be interested. But obviously, looking at Crystal Palace, I feel like they've had a very underrated season. I feel on the attacking front, they are a team that could spark a lot of chances. Defensively, they're not awful either. Looking at Fulham, I feel the exact same about them. And I really do feel like it could go either way. Looking at Fulham, currently 9th in the Premier League. Looking at Crystal Palace, they are 11th. They're very similar in terms of teams. And as I said, in terms of the points, I just can't split the difference. Now, going from two teams who I said have had very decent seasons, we've got two teams that I can't necessarily say the same. It is Everton versus Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Now, talking about having an awful time, I do want to thank you guys very, very much, as this channel hasn't had an awful time over the last year. Obviously, we are getting to the back end of the year. I wanted to thank you guys so much for all your support throughout the year. This channel's grown exponentially, especially over African Cup of Nations, the Premier League, Champions League, World Cup, all of that stuff. So I did want to thank you guys very, very much. Obviously, if you guys are not subscribed, we are still on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So if we could reach that eventually in the next month or two, I would appreciate it. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe down below. But one thing I just cannot subscribe to is Everton's style of football. Looking at them throughout the season, once again, they've been really underwhelming. Only 3 wins in 15 games. Looking at Wolves, only 2 wins in 15 games. I've got no idea what went so south for either of these two teams. And it's not really a matter of who's better between these two teams in terms of prediction. It's more about who's been worse.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I really don't know which way it's going to go. A part of me wants to say Everton, but to be 100% honest, I think Wolves are going to win this one. I think they are going to take it 1-0. And as much as I want to say it's going to be an exciting game, I think it will be a Ruben Neves penalty. Leicester City versus Newcastle United is next, and to be honest, I feel like this could be the game of the match week. Obviously, looking at Leicester City, they finally started to build momentum towards the end of the break, and I do feel sorry for them considering the fact that their momentum had to come to a stop because of the World Cup. But even with that form that they did have, I don't know if I like their chances versus Newcastle United, because at the end of the day, only one loss in the Premier League this season. It just has to go in the Magpies' favour. Defensively, they've been so solid this season. Attacking-wise, they've been brilliant. I mean, who cares about watching Lionel Messi at the World Cup when you can watch Almiron in the Premier League?
We're not so different, you and I.
But once again, jokes aside, I feel like it could be a super close game, but I do think Newcastle will take it. As I said, I feel sorry for Leicester City. I especially feel sorry for James Maddison. After the entire world fought for him to finally get included in the England squad, he doesn't even play a single minute of football. I mean, it's just the most Gareth Southgate thing I've ever heard of.
It was pretty high up the list, yeah.
Now, talking about Lionel Messi, in our next game we have Southampton versus Brighton, and obviously with Brighton, as you know, they have Messi McAllister. I mean, that man was probably the most underrated player, or just one of the most special talents at the World Cup. That is a player who could play for absolutely any top team in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a move for him in the upcoming transfer window. I do like this Brighton team, although their results haven't quite been where I expected them to be this season. I do back them to get a result versus a very underwhelming Southampton team. Once again, they did sack Haaland. We don't know how they'll really perform without him. But as I said, with Messi on the pitch, as I said, Messi McAllister, I do expect Brighton to take the points. Next up, we have Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Now, obviously, as we know, since Unai Emery took over Aston Villa, he's been brilliant for them in the Premier League. Once again, I do feel like maybe the break of the World Cup could hinder their performances, where it's actually the exact opposite for Liverpool. I feel like after a very poor start to this Premier League season, that they did need a much-needed break, and I've just got a special feeling inside of me that after after this break, Liverpool will come back stronger than ever.
I prefer really not to speak.
Well, maybe not stronger than ever, but they'll at least fight for a top 4 spot. And although, yes, I do think Aston Villa could score in this one, I do back Liverpool's chances. I feel like Mo Salah, I feel like he would have had a nice, well break. I think it will be a 3-1 win, and as I said, I hope Liverpool can recover their form. Next up, we have the Gunners versus the Hammers, Arsenal versus West Ham United, and once again, to be honest with you, in my mind, I've only got one clear winner here. I do think Arsenal, as much as it pains me to say this as a Manchester United fan, I do think they could take this one 3-1.
How dare you!
I'm so sorry, West Ham United. I've always thought of you guys as my second team. I really do love you guys. But looking at Arsenal, only one loss all season. West Ham not having their greatest of seasons, especially looking at these two teams head to head in terms of their history in the last 10 meetings between them. West Ham have only won 1 of the last 10 meetings, and that was in 2019. At the end of the day, I do think Arsenal have a much better chance, and I feel like this current Arsenal team will capitalize on it. Next up is Chelsea versus Bournemouth. Now, I remember a time where Bournemouth almost always had the better of Chelsea. I mean, in the last 5 meetings between these two teams, Chelsea have only won 1. It's crazy to think about, especially considering that they're not in good form now. But to be honest, I do feel like over the break, maybe Potter put a bit of magic on Chelsea. Have I made that joke one too many times this season? Probably. Is it going to stop me? Absolutely not.
Ooh, you're hard.
I do like this Chelsea team. I feel like they've got potential to take it over Bournemouth. Saying that, I feel like Bournemouth could also get it over Chelsea. But once again, you can never underestimate this Chelsea team. And I do think they will get a 2-0 win. Once again, it's football. Anything can happen. We'll have to wait and see. We then jump into our second final game of the video, Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. Now, of course, now that the elephant isn't in the room anymore, in fact, the elephant got released and did a Piers Morgan interview.
Yes, I feel betrayed.
I do feel a lot more confidence in this Manchester United team. I do feel like, weirdly enough, without Cristiano Ronaldo here, we don't have that pressure that he needs to score the goals. And I do feel like Manchester United are going to feel a bit more freedom to try score themselves. Obviously, I do feel like it could be a 2-0 win. I mean, I would at least hope so. And yes, a clean sheet is always a bit of a dodgy pick for Man United, but I'd at least like to think so, considering their 2 main centre-backs reached the World Cup final. Once again, it's Manchester United. You've got no idea what could ever happen, but I do think that they will take the results versus Nottingham Forest. I think they've got a lot of players in form. I do kind of want to get my revenge versus Dean Henderson. That would also be pretty nice.
It's criminal, really.
Once again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Come on, Manchester United. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to our final game of Premier League Matchweek 17 with Leeds United versus Man City. Also, if you want to call it, the Erling Haaland derby.
A bit shit, but that's how it is.
Once again, looking at Manchester City in their last 2 meetings versus Leeds, it's been a 4-0 win and a 7-0 win. There's no surprise here that they are the strong favourites, especially after Erling Haaland not being at the World Cup. I feel like that's a lot of time for him to get quite a few software updates to his motherboard. At the end of the day, Erling Haaland, an absolute beast. I feel like he's really going to truly remind us that he still exists after this World Cup. As I've said on many occasions, I still find it absolutely mental that as a backup for a Premier League striker, you've got Julian Alvarez. This Manchester City surprises us time and time again, and versus a Leeds United team that's very sloppy defensively, I think Man City could get another very dominant win, and I'm going to go for at least a 4-0 win. I'm sorry, Leeds United. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my Premier League Match Week 17 predictions. I hope that you guys did enjoy it. This will probably be my last video before Christmas. My next one will probably be afterwards. I hope you guys have a brilliant Christmas. Let me know what you guys want for Christmas down below. No, I'm not going to get you guys anything. It's just nice to know what you guys like for Christmas. But guys, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Once again, thank you for all the support as of late, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Finn, F-Y-N-N. Cheers.